This podcast is proud to be part of the TalkSport Fan Network. TalkSport. Powered by fans.
Danilo's free, and it goes to Gibbs wide.
First time we've seen them attack them, and there's Brandon! Well, that's what I wanted to see Robinson do. Taylor, one, he scores! And the City ground goes ballistic!
Here's Bob Williams. He's through here! And in the end, Forrest will say it doesn't matter how you play as long as you win it.
Yeah! Forest Premier League!
Hello and welcome to the latest edition of Red Side Le Trent, where we come to you shortly after Nottingham Forest's 3-2 defeats at home to Brighton and Hove Albion, which was their first league home defeat of the season, obviously because we lost a Burnley in the Cup. And yeah, it's not a particularly pleasant morning. I'm joined by Adam Wicklow and Lee Clark. Unfortunately, no Reece Lane today. And yeah, I think as is the case with most defeats, let's just dive straight into it and try and move on. So Adam, we'll start with you. Two changes from the team. Obviously the biggest surprise was being that there was no Ibrahim Sangare with Danilo coming in for him, and obviously Elanga kept his spot, but also saw Chris Woods lead the line instead of Divock Origi. What did you think of the team, and was there anything you would have done slightly differently?
Difficult to really say because Origi hasn't been given enough opportunity to prove himself. So again, you kind of guess you go off like Wood's last start, which was the Luton game. Maybe not. Maybe he had one before. I can't remember. But he scored in his last game where he started and scored twice and against Luton. So you kind of have to go off that, I guess. For me, I thought Danilo maybe should play next to Mangala, and you keep Dominguez in that pressing role, because I feel like that's what he's been good at this season. I think as we get into it, and then in hindsight, you kind of see where I'm coming from with that, but because of how the game develops. But I thought it was a good enough team to go and beat Brighton and take it to him. And obviously that told with our start, but as the game progressed and as we'll get into, that wasn't quite the case. But yeah, I thought the team was completely fine. Obviously really good to see that Danilo and Murillo had overcome their knocks against West Ham. So that was the positive of it all, really, wasn't it?
Yeah, definitely. I think it was. We were all very touchy about their fitness going into the game. So just seeing on the starting lineup was definitely a relief. And Lee, I mean, straight away it looked like Forest once again scored in 5 minutes for a football match, and what a start it was. I mean, I think as you correctly said on Twitter to us in the group chat, thought Gibbs White couldn't cross the ball according to some.
Yeah, it's always a bit of fun, isn't it, to have those little moments, especially after the flack he got from the West Ham game. But yeah, it was. I made the point during the game that if you're going to kind of sit in and make things difficult for a team that has lots of the ball, when you do get a chance to go forward, you've got to take your chance. And we did that with aplomb. So yeah, it was the perfect start. But I mean, I'm sure we're going to dissect it in more detail, but we're probably the worst club in the world for scoring in the first 10 minutes, aren't we? Especially in this league. It's just we don't seem to have any idea of what to do. We don't enjoy winning a football match. It's dead weird. So yeah, it was a great goal though. It was a really nice goal, and it's strange because when Gibbs White had it, I just thought, you've got loads of space here. This is your moment to pick a good pass. Show you can cross a ball. Show that all the the nonsense that was being spoken after the West Ham game. I mean, some people were kind of using his set pieces to justify him not being a very good player for us, and it's like you can say that his set pieces aren't very good without having to bash him for other aspects of his game, and that's what he's capable of. Yesterday we saw exactly what he's capable of given the time and the space on the ball. And it probably highlights as well, as much as it was across from his position, the right wing, it probably highlights that we just need that sort of quality between the posts more often. So yeah, it was a nice goal, but obviously it proved too early.
Yeah, it was very Forest-esque defending, I thought, from Brighton. Just let Gibbs White just run unchallenged for 40 yards and then leave Elanga completely unmarked in the box. It was very kind of them. But unfortunately, they weren't. That was the only present we got out of them, really, because very, very quickly after that, even despite being very injury hit, they completely dominated, and we're second best in every department. Adam, I mean, we seem to actually. I think the most frustrating aspect of that is that as good as Brighton were, as much they're fizzing it around, as much they're like putting us out of position and whatever else, we got to a point I felt where we just about ridden the wave of their onslaught, and then they score. It's like a beautiful finish from Evan Ferguson, of course, but I mean, Danilo and Niakate, have you got any questions about their involvement for that goal?
Yeah, I mean, we've actually we lose the ball on the halfway line. Danilo just needs to play. He tries to play the inside pass, and I think the obvious pass, and I think Morgan Gibbs White is actually making the run, is to go in behind and into the space that Brighton are leaving in there, and he makes the wrong decision, and then he's out of position. And Pascal Gross was doing this all day, and it really infuriated me. It was such an obvious thing where he just kept drifting out into the space and leaving, and they were doubling up on Toffolo. He couldn't really do anything. Nice pass into Ferguson, and I mean that's an excellent finish. No keeper in the Premier League is saving that. It's side netting stuff, and he's a really hot prospect for Brighton. But I think we have to do more in terms of closing that down, not allowing that touch. And I mean, I understand why the VAR check come in after watching it, because Lallana almost looks like he runs past Vlachodimos's eye line, but I don't think that would have made a difference if he could have seen it the whole way through. But yeah, we're masters of our own downfall, but you can't knock the finish. It's a good finish from a good striker.
Yeah, as much as we don't like seeing goals conceded at Forest, that's probably the best finish I think we've seen at the Trent End since Sam Surridge against Swansea. It was just brilliant. But again, it shows if you give Premier League players time and space without closing them down, like you said, they will hurt you, especially ones that have a £100 million price tag on their heads. So yeah, that was very disappointing. I think, like I said, we just sort of steamed to get a bit of a foothold back in the game, and it all comes from a very stupid ball into midfield from Danilo, which is just very unlike him. But yeah, we'll obviously delve into that a bit further in due process. And then Lee, obviously, we sort of ran it a little bit before half time. Gibbs White put a good cross in for Woods. Admittedly, it was a bit of a float, so it wasn't. He had to do a lot to sort of generate power on that. And as we know, it's very difficult for a striker to do much with, but still picked him out at least, I suppose. And then sucker punch in the 6 minutes of added time with some absolutely abject defending. Talk me through the goal, please, because I don't want to mention it too much. It still makes me angry. Like, I can't believe, why is Ola Aina jumping with João Pedro? I just don't. Oh,
Yeah, I mean it's just a complete mess, isn't it? It's like Adam's just alluded to. Pascal Gross was drifting into that space for the entire half, and obviously because of where we sit, we kind of noticed that probably more than some people sat at the other side of the stadium, I suppose. And every time it happened, we kept saying, we're going to have to watch this because he's just getting it and whipping them in. And I think I've seen the footage of Soccer Saturday back, and Michael Dawson was watching our game. And he almost said that, I mean, Dawson's very professional. He's not really one for slamming players and managers and that sort of stuff, is he? So he was quite diplomatic about it. And he kind of said, he almost hinted that Forest should have perhaps been a bit more aware of what he's capable of. He's been, since he came to the Premier League, he's renowned for, creating assists and that sort of stuff, sticking decent balls into decent areas. And it was almost like we was happy to let him do it all afternoon. It was just very, very strange. Yeah, and then the defending in the box. I mean, again, it's a great header. I mean, it's right in the same area of the net almost where it's gone in. Some people believe that the keeper should have saved those two, but we won't go into that. But yeah, it was a good header. But yeah, like you say, I don't know what we're doing in the box. It's like there's no. You would think with Niakate being there that there'd be a little bit more. Don't know, just like leadership, just some sort of. You wouldn't expect to be conceding goals like that. Yeah, it's a great goal, but the process of how we've defended it is just abysmal. Yeah, I don't get it. I don't know where the book stops with that, because you can blame Cooper for that sort of stuff, but at the end of the day, there's leaders within that defensive unit. I mean, after the Villa game, because of what Murillo did to the young lad who did the last post and all that, this, that, and the other, everyone was saying that he looks like a good leader and that sort of stuff. So there's enough people in that team that should know better that just shouldn't be happening. I don't know. I don't know what the answer is. I know that when Aina plays, we do miss Serge Aurier is pretty good in the air, isn't he? If he's playing, would that have happened? But then I think was it the Liverpool game or there was another game where on this podcast we said that Aurier was pretty suspect in that same situation. So yeah, I don't know what the answer is. It's just infuriating that we keep conceding almost carbon copies of the previous goal we've conceded.
I just don't get why the whole back four just moves away. Like, in no world, it's very obvious Gross is going to cross the ball. So if you can't stop the ball, stop the cross. Obviously, they say that you stop the cross, stop the goal. But I don't get why Niakate is so far forwards, like in a straight line, if you like. Like it's like the fact that Ola Aina is your deepest centre back. He's on the penalty spot. Something's badly wrong with that line for that to happen because that shouldn't be happening at all. Like you just left a number 9 completely unmarked. Yeah.
Yeah, I think as well. This is an excuse because I think in this day and age, players will get shown clips of every single player in the squad. Dare I say, they even prepared for the eventuality that Mitoma might have been fit. So it's not an excuse, but I think it actually threw us out a bit that Fatty went off so early because I think we obviously took the lead and we looked quite compact to the point where I'm not going to say Brighton were running out of ideas because they never do. They always look like they're capable of producing something. But it was almost like when Pedro came on, he's got a little bit more of a physical presence than Fatty. And obviously he prefers to play through the middle, whereas they lined Fatty up kind of out on the left a little bit. So yeah, it's not an excuse, but I don't want to say we weren't prepared because we should be prepared, but I just think it kind of threw our game plan off a little bit that Pedro came on and he's such a different player to what Fatty is. Let's face it, he wouldn't have been plonking his head on that ball and firing it into the net, would he?
No, it wouldn't.
So yeah, not an excuse, but I don't think that helped us at all.
I think the most frustrating thing for me is Pedro's already well in front of Aina before the ball comes in the box. When you watch the highlights, it's not like he's had to make any like clever movement to get in front of him. He's already there. He's already made that run. Aina's nowhere near him, so that's one issue. But for me, we're playing exactly the same formation as Brighton are. So why is like Dominguez or Mangala not following Gross out wide? That doesn't make any sense either. I understood that like Evan Ferguson's dropping deep, but that's a centre half's problem. You don't need to be protecting the back four like that for me if you've got a midfielder who's happy to drift out wide and cross the ball in. But it's even more annoying. I mean, I'm sure we'll get onto it as well, is Brighton had 2 forced changes in that. They were playing bloody Jack Hinchelwood out left back, and he's a centre midfielder, young kid, and we didn't even like really look like we tested him when he came on throughout the entire game. And that's an alarming thing to think about as well. And yeah, frustrating.
Yeah, frustrated is the word, and which is a recurring theme, really. So, I mean, obviously, if you look at start of the second half, I mean, within 5 minutes again, we very nearly go 2-2. I mean, obviously, Lee, you had a perfect view of this when Danilo stands on the ball. Again, we actually put a good set piece in. It was Toffolo this time, and it picks out an unmarked Danilo, and he just sort of traps it rather than side foots it. But Adam, I mean, not long after that, again, we're made to pay for it. And again, just the most Forest-esque defending you could imagine. A free kick comes in, it's a header picked across the box, it's going straight to Vlachodimos regardless, and Chris Wood decides he fancies DDTing a Brighton player. Obviously, it wasn't as extreme as that, but what did you think of the incident? I mean, did you think it was a penalty first and foremost? And yeah.
I mean, that was at my end of the ground, so it happened that fast. I just generally thought, I didn't even know it was Wood at the time. So I thought whoever it was had literally just got their body between man and ball and guided it back to Vlachodimos. So the next thing Anthony Taylor is whistled to the mouth, points to the spot. I'm going, what on earth was that for? And then now, having rewatched it a couple of times, I'm still not sure because the camera isn't quite clear on the incident, but it kind of looks like João Pedro makes a meal of it, but at the same time, Chris Wood's got an arm around him and is giving the referee a decision to make at the end of the day. And VAR will back the on field decision. I'm sure Lee will probably agree with that. It's kind of it's one of those because we got exactly the same thing. The ball was actually further away from Callum Hudson-Odoi in that instance, and I'm sure Lee will give us a bit more insight on that. But yeah, just you're giving the referee a decision to make. Anthony Taylor probably couldn't wait to give it because all four stands of the ground were calling him every word under the sun. So give the bloke a load of stick and then give him a decision to make. And yeah, we get what we deserve, really.
Yeah, it was weird because like when I first saw it, I was sort of like, "Oh, he's not. That's a bit soft." But then, like my dad said to me at the time, I was like, "Well, if that's anywhere else on the pitch, it's a foul, isn't it? He's got hold of him." It reminded me, I guess, of the United one where United City, where I can't remember who had right. I think was it Garnacho maybe who had like hold of McTominay who had hold of Rodri, and like as he ran past him, just kept hold of him. And obviously, Rodri went to the ground, and that was it, penalty. So at least they're consistent on that front, I suppose. But it just seemed very silly. Like again, you expect more from your leaders. I think like okay, fair enough. Chris Wood shouldn't really be defending against a set piece and whatever else, but it was just striker's challenge in the box, really, wasn't it? It was just silly.
Well, I don't mind Chris Wood being in the box to challenge because he's meant to be a good header of the ball, isn't he? That's fine. But then what the piss is he doing? Sorry to swear. I mean, we've not swore for a long time on this game, but what is he doing? What is he doing?
I don't know. I think that's frustrating. I think we all know as well. Like, but it's something we had it before. I mean, like, it's not a new thing. Do you remember in lockdown where we had Brentford away? And Gaetan Bong was hanging hold of Ivan Toney from a corner, and the referee gave a penalty straight away. And it was like, this isn't anything new. That was 3-4 years ago. There's just like if you hold someone in the box and prevent them getting to the ball or trying to get the ball, it's more often than not going to be a foul. And I think what's so annoying is that, and obviously it's a split second thing, so we wasn't to know, but that ball from Dunk wasn't a good header back into the box. It was going straight to Vlachodimos. It was literally one step out catch. That strike, Pedro's getting nowhere near that ball, so there was no need to be grabbing hold of him like that. It's just so infuriating. I mean, if it wasn't game over at 2-1, that definitely was then.
I think all the Football Manager nerds will probably agree that our average of decision making must be one of the lowest in the league because it's every week we're making some sort of stupid decision. Like it just doesn't matter. So yeah.
But
Lee, do you want
anyway.
to say anything?
I just think, just to touch on the two decisions, I've not watched them back, to be fair. I very rarely watch Forest highlights when we've lost. That might sound a bit sad, but it just is what it is. The issue I've got is I had a good view of what Taylor was doing during the one that we got. And it looked to me like he wanted to give it. He looked at his lino, he kind of moved his arm as though he was going to whistle, but then he didn't. And it was almost like he was saying straight away to the players, "Oh, it'll get checked." But for it to get checked, it's got to be a clear and obvious error from the on-field decision. So that doesn't help us at all. Now, luckily, Graham Scott, who was on VAR, did decide it was a clear and obvious error and sent him to the screen. But I just don't understand. From what I could see at the time during the game, the two instances look very, very similar. Like you've just said, Christian, anywhere else on the pitch, you'd want a foul, so there probably should be penalties. But why is he given one and not the other? And it was so soon after the one he's given on field. I said on the way home that you guys all know me and everyone on Twitter knows me. I try and look for, if I can't defend an official, I try and look for reasoning why they've done something. Yesterday's performance from Anthony Taylor highlighted that they don't help themselves, some of them. And Steve Cooper was spot on with his, again, very pragmatic response, if you like, when he said, he alluded to something like if he's the number one, he's supposed to be the number one in the country or something like that. He's held in high regard. He got the Europa League final. That group of officials yesterday got the Europa League final. I don't think the assistants were bad at all, to be fair. They didn't have lots to do. There wasn't loads of offsides, that sort of stuff, was there? But they looked pretty decent, to be fair, from an assistant point of view. But the refereeing was just so inconsistent. It was the foul on Elanga near the dugouts. I've never seen a more glaringly obvious foul with the referee in such a good position, and then he's got the arrogance to just wave his finger at the player. Like, come on, you've got to help yourselves. Give the ones that everyone in the ground is expecting you to give. The little ones that are contentious, yeah, that's a matter of opinion. The fans will forget about those within minutes. Those ones, you just don't help yourself at all. And I'm baffled by it all. I don't really understand how VAR's working.
Honestly,
What did-
I was going to come on to Annie Taylor at some point anyway, at the end, but the thing is, right now we might as well go on with it. For what it's worth, I mean, if we're saying he's in the top percentile of English referees who, like you said, Lee, got the Europa League final, then something is badly, badly wrong, because that was horrific yesterday. And I'm sure both teams said the
for
same
both
thing. He was
sides.
awful, absolutely abject officiating. We've like that's as bad as I've seen in a long, long time. Probably since I can remember. We're going back to like the Oliver Langford days, the Championship, where he seemed to have a vendetta against the club. Like it was just, it's not the reason why we lost. No one can say that because that's just not the case at all. Like it's not Anthony Taylor's fault our midfield got swarmed and couldn't pass water. However, that's your top 1% of the country right there. I've seen better on a Sunday morning. He was absolutely awful, horrific.
What did you lot make of his handling of our penalty? Because I mean,
joke.
he sent Lewis
Absolute
Dunk off for
joke.
calling him a bell end, but then like afterwards, it's still like not handled because Brighton players are still surrounding him. They're still arguing. There's like some pushing and shoving in handbags. And then there's a scuffing of a penalty spot. I'd be dishing out yellow cards left, right, and centre at this point because surely you've just got to accept the decision and move on. Do you imagine if Lewis Dunk had got sent off? Well, he did get sent off, obviously, but then it cost him his team the 2 extra points or even 3 points for being so stupid. Like you'd be like, Brighton fans would be questioning the behaviour of their players. But Anthony Taylor did not do anything to help him in that situation either. There was some absolute great housery going on, and I completely commend it because they delayed the penalty for so long. But it should have got handled way better.
Yeah, I do agree with that. I think Anthony Taylor is one of the ex-semi-pros who's been fast-tracked, by the way, to where he is today. That doesn't mean he's not worked hard to get where he is, because I think every official that's getting Europa League finals has worked hard in some of their career. That, to me, was a referee who's never played the game, because you could see the Forest players getting frustrated. Like Niakate is clearly trying to say to him, "Hurry up, we want to take it. We're in the zone." With every second that's delayed, it's making it harder for Gibbs White to score that penalty. And I agree with you, Adam. I think if that's at my level, Dunk, obviously, what he said, fair play to him for that. More referees should do that. But then, literally seconds after, he's still got 5 players, including Dunk still, by the way, surrounding him. Now, if you don't want to book them all, at least pull 2 out and say, right, piss off, leave me alone. Sorry for swearing. But it was like he was happy to have a chat with them. I thought there were going to be some deck chairs come out and kettle getting boiled at one point. And they're all going to sit and have a chat about it and check that VAR had got it right. I mean, and then he got it all sorted, and Pascal Gross came back into the box. If that wasn't an easy opportunity, just to fling a yellow card in his face, I don't know what he was doing. It was just he'd been so strong to demonstrate. Right, there's a yellow for dissent, and then straight after he clearly said something else, sent him off. And I thought, oh yeah, sound. He might be giving some dodgy decisions, but he's gonna get this sorted, and we'll get cracking with this penalty. It went on for ages. It was just. I hate this. I hate the statement because I think it's particularly at my level. I think it's thrown around a lot. He absolutely lost the plot. It was a 3-2 game of football in the best division in the world, and everyone is talking about the referee. That's not right. That suggests
That's exactly what I said to Dad at full time. I said,
That's-
look, we've had a 5-goal game, a red
Yeah.
card, 2 penalties, and all we're talking about is a referee. Like we're not talking about how Forest imploded. Obviously, we are now because we kind of have to. But like the immediate thing after the game was about how poor his refereeing performance was. I cannot believe he did not give our penalty in real time. Call me being like a Forest bias for whatever else, but it just seems so blatant. Hinchinwood sticks his legs out and trips him. He doesn't even try to play the ball. He just goes deliberately for Hudson-Odoi. It's the most blatant offence you'll probably see in a while. And it's sort of like, and what makes it even worse is Brighton very nearly scored while they were checking on VAR. Can you imagine if they had? I think it was a block by Murillo, wasn't it? At the other end of the pitch. If they'd scored that, and he had to, would he have had the bottle, do you reckon, to disallow that goal and give a penalty at the other end? I don't think he would have done.
No, probably not. I guess we'll never know. But yeah, I don't understand why he didn't give it in real time, based on the one he'd given at the other end. Because like we've said, it was probably one of those situations, weren't it, where neither player, like I say, I've not seen them back, so I haven't got the beauty of it. But was Hudson-Odoi going to get the ball? Like we've said,
he was just a blatant trick.
That's what
like,
I mean. It's almost a carbon copy decision, isn't it? At either end of the pitch. So yeah, it was just a really, really poor performance, I thought. And what I would say is it highlights just how far ahead of everyone Michael Oliver is. Because when have you ever seen him have a performance like that? Never. He never loses the plot like that. And do you know what? This is the bloke who he had was it Buffon he sent off for foul and abusive in the Champions League semi-final
Yes,
that
it
year.
was. Yeah.
You look how he handled that situation, and it I don't know. It was just it does kind of it just makes you realise how poor some of the others below him actually are. Because if he's in the top 1 or 2%, then yeah, we've got bigger issues than we thought we had.
Yeah, to quote Neil Warnock in that clip, it was like that was diabolical. It really was. But like you said, Lou, obviously, to be fair to Gibbs White, like I think it was about 4 minutes in between the VAR call and obviously everything else happening. So him actually taking the kick was 4 minutes, and he still to step up that confidently and dispatch it, send the keeper the wrong way, and to put it straight in the corner, which I think even if he had gone that way, probably wouldn't have saved it. That's like a lot of bottle, I thought.
Yeah, definitely. It's funny with Gibbs White taking penalties, isn't it? I think we've seen a couple of them. He's quite casual, isn't he? He's not Lyle Taylor casual, but it's an unorthodox run up. Obviously, we've seen a couple of one high profile miss at the City Ground from Gibbs White when he was wearing a Sheffield United shirt. If he listens to Poddy, I think that's about 4 times I've mentioned that penalty miss now, and I love Morgan Gibbs White, so apologies. But yeah, it was calm and composed. Again, I could do a hour-long podcast on all of Morgan Gibbs White's amazing qualities. I think he's brilliant. I think he's the sort of player that you appreciate as a youngster. He'll make mistakes. His set pieces aren't always great, but you take him out of our team, and especially at this time where Taiwo's injured, God, we're going to be struggling, aren't we? If he was to pick up an injury as well, he's just capable of making something happen. And one thing that I do like is even if he's having a bad game, he'll always show for the ball. He never shirks his responsibilities. I don't know if we're going to come on to this, but the one thing I found baffling yesterday was that we almost, I mean, it's probably a sad indictment of the squad, I suppose, that we're not blessed with loads of wingers, but we kind of set Danilo up as a 10. You can't be playing as a 10 and not playing Morgan Gibbs White as a 10. I just don't agree with it. I think as a championship club, there'll be you always want to have 2 or 3 players in every squad that can play in a number of positions. And yeah, Gibbs White looks like he's going to add that feather to his cap, but do we really want our best player being that sort of utility player, being shoved here, there, and everywhere? I'm just not a big fan of it. I think as a Premier League football club that wants to progress, you play your best players in their best positions. The players that are going to win your matches, they need to play in the best positions. And for me, it was a little bit. I know that people will throw the argument of, well, who plays on the wing? Well, that's the Cooper's $1 million question, I suppose. But I would have, if you wanted to set up with a 10, I would have gone with Gibbs White in the 10 yesterday.
No, right. Obviously, we subsequently did do that when we went at 10 men. Hudson-Odoi came
Yeah,
on. Obviously,
absolutely. In the second half,
4-2-3-1.
yeah, absolutely.
And, I just felt much more comfortable seeing Gibbs White pick up the ball in midfield. Even with men around him, you just know he's going to do something. And it's just a testament to how good a player he is. And yeah, I much prefer him being in the thick of the action. But anyway, one through both of you. I guess we'll start with you, Adam, actually. So I'll see against 10 men, Forest decided to turn the screw a bit. Not really a lot. All things considered, obviously, although it was weird because it felt like it was the 98th minute of a game in about the 84th minute, in that Brighton weren't leaving it a box, they were smashing it forwards. Vacadimos was picking it up by the halfway line and putting it back and giving it back to feet and stuff like that. It was very, very bizarre. But there was 2 opportunities of note which we could have snatched a draw or even won the game. The first one was Gibbs White, Adam, where he was picked out, obviously, from that 10 roll, gets in the middle of the box and just mistimes his header and it comes off his shoulder instead. Did you think he should have done a bit more of that? Or
Yeah, I think weirdly Morgan Gibbs White's quite good in the air, isn't he? So he wins a lot of actual aerial duels if you're a stats person. So yeah, I'd have liked to. I thought he might have hit the target at least. It's one of them. But equally, we were crap against 10 men. I'm not going to beat around the bush about it. We were, because we didn't really test for Bruggen in goal or their defense. No one really got stretched. There was no real time where you think, oh, they're really backs against the walls here. There was no it didn't seem like they were panicking as such. I don't know if that's because the ball just wouldn't fall for us or anything like that. But I thought we were shocking against 10 men. I think if it was the reverse, Brighton would have definitely scored, if not 1 or 2 goals. So yeah, that's my take on that. Really,
No, I wouldn't disagree with that. I felt that we could have played.
we lacked ideas. We lacked so many ideas.
It was very, very weird. It was like it was just going down either flank, and then it was like, now what? It was like there was no one to cross to. Like you had Origi and Gibbs White and a few others like floating around in there. You said Alanga and Toffolo, not really sure what to do. And on the other side, it was the same. Hudson-Odoi was brave enough to actually try and get balls in, but obviously Williams when he came on did that, and they're all awful. So it's like we didn't have any real ideas how to break them down.
I go back to our decision making. Like we're floating crosses in, and it's just going straight to is it Van Heck at centre half? He was just winning everything over Bruggen, just collecting, and it's just like, what are we working on in terms of wing play? Because for me, it's hard and low. Really, everyone's got a bloody chance. Then I mean, there was no cutting back to the penalty spot. I just thought it was just like hitting hope.
That was a lot, yeah. It was a lot of hit hope. And although one of them nearly came off Lee, and I appreciate this is maybe semi-loaded giving you this one, but Ryan Yates, 100th minute, chance to be in front of Trent and chance to be a hero, gets a decent connection on it, but very comfortable height for the goalkeeper. Should he do better, do you think?
Honestly, I don't think he could have done any more. If I'm being brutally honest, I don't think he could have done. Straight away when it happened, my instant reaction was, "What a save!" Yeah, you can always say with those situations that a player could have done better, but when that cross comes in, all you think is get it on target, make the keeper make a save. Yeah, I mean, ask Ryan Yates, and he might say he might think he could have done better. I suppose. It just looked as though it was going to be a goal. It just looked like he timed his jump to perfection. But yeah, it looked a good save to me. I'll be honest, from where I was. Yeah, it was. I don't really know what else to say. I'm not going to give him any. I'm not going to bash him too much for that. I think with the Gibbs White one, I think you don't want Gibbs White in there heading balls, do you? I mean, like Adam says, his aerial stats are pretty good, but when it comes to scoring headers, has he ever scored a header? I don't know. I probably should do a bit of research on that. But
he did for the under-21s in the summer league.
There we go. So he has scored them before, but I mean, you're not going to give. I mean, well, I don't think too many fans are going to give Gibbs White too much stick there. And likewise, I don't think we should give Yates too much stick. He's got himself into the good area. What I would say that it probably poses the question is, if we are going to have the tactic where we're floating crosses in, or getting them a bit more whipped, is it worth putting Yates on a little bit earlier? Is it worth perhaps giving him a start in certain games? I think that's another decision for Cooper to make. But yeah, I think his one yesterday was just one of those things. I think if that happens in 10 other situations, you probably keeper saves 5 and 5 sail into the net. So yeah, he's not going to get any flack from me for that.
It's interesting. I saw a clip from I didn't realise it was Gary Birtles doing co-comms yesterday, and I've only seen a couple of clips. Like I said, like you, I don't really like watching it back when we've lost. And he was pretty adamant that Yates should have, if he gets it in a corner, gets above it and puts it low, it's a goal, which is probably fair enough. I suppose he would know, given what he's done in his career. But it's one of those, isn't it? Like, could he have done more? I think, like you said, the main thing is he's got it on target at the very least. So.
Yeah, that's it. I think I'm open to opinion. Like, I mean, I'm not going to slam Birtles for that. I mean, he's scored, loads of goals for Forest, so he knows what it takes in those situations. But yeah, it just looked to me like it all happened so quickly that Yates's immediate thought was literally get it on target and hope for the best, rather than Yates's headers aren't really finesse, I suppose, on the Sheffield United away aside. He kind of just aims for a spot, doesn't he? I suppose. And with how close to the goal he was, I think he just thought he probably couldn't miss. So yeah, just my personal opinion. I'm not going to give him too much stick. I think it was a good save from the keeper. I will touch on what Adam said as well, though. We are so naive in attacking in both areas of the pitch at the minute, at the front and the back. When it comes to crossing, as a keeper, they just love having hold of the ball. I mean, why did we keep fizzing little floated crosses to the near post for him to step off his line and catch? We were just craving.
Liner especially was very suspect.
He must have done it 3 or 4 times. It was It was ridiculous. Like you mix it up, you think, right, he's a big lad, he's going to take all of them. Fizz them across the floor, where he's got to actually make a bit of a sprawling movement and make a save as such. But it was just, it was kind of like rinse and repeat all afternoon. Just do the same thing and hope that they make a mistake rather than us doing something different to change the outcome of the game.
No, it's a fair point. It's a very fair point. It was frustrating as well because we, like I said, so many good type positions, and it was more often than not it was Aina, and I do wonder with Montiel on the bench, and obviously our on the bench as well. Maybe he might look to shake the pack a little bit for Everton next week. But yeah, just two more things before we move on to Sleptonic thoughts and player performances. So we're going to look at one thing that obviously got a lot of fans back up at full time was Deserby sprinting onto the pitch and the Brighton players going absolutely mental. I personally have no real issue with it. I thought that, given the circumstances, I mean, it was their first win in 2 months. We haven't mentioned that in the league. Obviously, they've got the whole 11 of the players basically out, and they've held on again for 20 minutes or so with 10 men. So I kind of don't really have any issue with them celebrating as such like that. I guess you could sort of say that's a little disrespectful for Deserby not to shake Cooper's hand first. But other than that, I've got no real issue with it. But what do you two think? Obviously, it's caused a bit of a stir among our fan base. Start with you, Adam.
I would completely accept if Forest were in the same situation for me. Like that's the third time I think we've been beaten in 2023. I think like Newcastle and Man United are the only two other teams to beat us. So, like you say, Brighton haven't won for a fair few games. The team they end up with is ridiculous in some circles. You got like Hinshelwood at left back, Pascal Gross at right back. I think it was Veltman and Van Heck at centre half, and then like Buonanotte doing a job out wide. And yeah, so like for me, I've got no issues. Yeah, fair enough. Deserby should shake Cooper's hands, but obviously the emotions have took the better of him. I think that they were the biggest limbs I've seen from Brighton all day, because I don't think they actually celebrated their goals as hard as you'd have thought they would. But yeah, no, I'd expect the exact same thing from a Forest side if they went away into the Premier League and did that, because our away wins are far and fair between as well. So no, I've got no issue. Fair play, enjoy it. I mean, I didn't understand some people's comments saying, "Oh, like it's like they've won the Champions League or anything." Mate, they're competing on a lot of higher fronts than we are. So you know what? Fair play for little old Brighton, as in inverted commas.
Lee, what about you?
Yeah, I mean, the celebration police have joined the atmosphere police, haven't they? My opinion on this is, what I would say is I completely agree with a lot of what Adam's just said there. I'm one of these that the best thing about football is the highs it gives you watching your team. And I think, I don't know, are a lot of the people that are moaning at Brighton's celebrations the ones that don't really go away, that haven't really experienced really big results away? Again, I don't mean that to sound patronising, but you've got to have been in those situations, haven't you? Do I have a problem with it? No, I don't. I thought it was very strange. I thought it was very, very strange. Because it was just unusual. You don't normally see a team that battles it out in Europe come into Forest and celebrate like that. Am I surprised by De Zerbi? No, because he does come across as I don't want to say like an Italian Nathan Jones, because that is incredibly harsh, but he does seem like a weird little man, doesn't he? He does seem
he's very passionate, isn't he?
He's very Italian. Yeah, art on his sleeve.
Stereotypically emotive as Italian, I'd say. Yeah.
And I'll tell this is my opinion on why I think he reacted like that. Obviously, a lot's been made about his comment where he said he doesn't like 80% of the refs in this country. Now, I personally think that's our media taking that out of context. I don't think he dislikes anyone. He's Italian. Italians love everyone, don't they? I don't think he dislikes any of them as blokes. But I think if he could only pick referees to ref Brighton's games, he'd just pick 20% of them. That's what I think he meant by that. I don't think he dislikes any of them as people. I just don't think he thinks 80% of them are very good referees. And I think because of everything that happened yesterday, obviously Brighton felt that it probably shouldn't have been a red card, probably shouldn't have been a penalty. He probably thought it was a bit like an us versus them mentality again with the officials. So I think that's why he reacted as he did. Do I agree that he didn't shake Steve Cooper's hand before? I think that was a little bit off. I think as a professional manager in the Premier League, you probably should shake your counterpart's hand first and then crack on and do what you wish. Um, but it's the moment. Lots of us have never, well, none of us have never been in that situation at the Premier League, have we? So we can't really bash him too much. Um, no, let's not kill everything that's positive about football. They clearly appreciated coming to a difficult place and winning, and they've not won for 2 months. So come on,
I mean,
let's just call them a bit of flack. I think it was strange, and I thought it looked a bit weird, but I won't bash them for going a little bit OTT. I thought it was just they were just happy to win a game of football, weren't they?
uh,
They've travelled a
uh,
long way, spent a lot of money.
if anything's to go by, I mean, I've spoke to quite a fair few fans on the way back from games at home on Lady Bay Bridge. I happened just to like bump into them, and he kind of just say, "Oh, just chat about the game." And one Brighton fan actually said he was expected to lose yesterday, so he was saying like so happy that they managed to come to such a difficult place and get a result. They were like they'd have took a point. Do you know what I mean? So that's compliment to us really that they've gone and done that. I mean, we gifted it them. Some could say so. Again, I've got no issue at all. I mean, look at what we did against Bristol City when we went up. Same bloody thing in it.
Yeah, you're not wrong. I mean, I found it a little bizarre that there are sort of people digging Brighton out for that. It's like that they've won a game. Like when we beat Chelsea, the roar when we beat Chelsea, like you can't have it both ways, really, can you?
No.
So. But anyway, one more thing before we touch on performances, and obviously, as I'm sure many of you have seen, was that the Daily Mail have released an exclusive saying that Steve Cooper's job is under pressure unless we can pick up a few results. And they highlighted in the report that Lopetegui is someone that the board are admirers of. Now, this isn't, on the one hand, this isn't really a surprise. I mean, it's now 1 win in 9. We've dropped 11 points from winning positions this season, which is awful. We've scored 1 goal from set pieces all season. We're the league high for goals conceded from set pieces this season with 7. It's given the investment, I think that sort of safety jacket we had last season of being a new team isn't there anymore. So yeah, I mean, this is always going to happen. But the other side to the coin is that we're about 3 points off 10th. And we're 8 points clear of the drop zone. So it's a very difficult one to gauge, really. But I know obviously Reece is very anti Lopetegui. I know he thinks that Wolves are a very dirty side in particular, and he threw his toys out the pram towards the ends. Didn't do a particularly good job at Real Madrid. Obviously, to play devil's advocate to that, he's won the Europa League as a manager. Wolves won the last 6 games this season. They were in a very tough spot, and he got them out of it pretty comfortably. Obviously, to finish above us at the ends. And to be picked to manage Real Madrid to begin with must have something about you. So it's, yeah. I mean, I guess, what do you two make of the reports first and foremost? I mean, obviously, this is all speculative because if we beat Everton and get a point at Fulham, let's say, or vice versa, everyone sort of forgets about it, don't they? Like, it's just probably just built up frustration. But what do you think? Yeah. Adam, we'll start with you.
Okay. I'm on the fence about Lopetegui because I think on one hand he is that kind of like a dickhead you kind of need almost in the dugout that will kind of stick up for you a little bit. I mean, sometimes Cooper does do that, but in some instances, I think like we concede a goal and I kind of sometimes you see his body language and you kind of just go, you don't look angry enough. But even to the players, like we conceded them 2 goals in the first half, and no one looks like they're trying to like find out who's accountable for it or anything. It's a very Forest thing where you don't see anyone like really bark anything or get emotional about conceding a goal or losing too much. It's a bit of a strange one. Whereas I think Lopetegui would kind of lose his rag a little bit more, at least a little bit more animated. So and people seem to warm to that kind of body language sometimes, I guess. And obviously you do need the opposite of a calm head, but yeah, sometimes Cooper kind of facial expression kind of looks a bit lost almost. But for me, we're linked to managers who aren't in jobs, and I kind of think like, well, they're not in a job for a reason. Other clubs haven't obviously looked at them, but maybe they're waiting for the right opportunity. I don't know, because you look at Graham Potter, he was linked to the Sweden job, I believe it was, or something, not too long ago. And I don't know if he's took that or not, but I don't think he has. So he's another one on the list. But for me, like, why are we not going after someone that's a job like a Maresca at Leicester? Look how well he's doing. Like, would you not want to just go, well, we'll just take the best manager in the Championship who's been under Pep's leadership. Why don't we just take him? But I know that's easier said than done. But yeah, we seem to be looking at managers, if we're going to go down that road, that aren't in work. Why would you not try and pluck one for a change? That seems what every other team seems to do. Yeah, it's a difficult one. Like you mentioned, Christian, I mentioned this online as well, that we're only 3 points off 10th. We're lucky that there's 3 teams in this league that are struggling, though Luton actually ended up winning yesterday. There's no reason why they actually can't catch us at some point. They're not actually that. I think they're 5 points away from us now, or 4 points away. I can't remember exactly off the top of my head. So we're not out of this relegation scrap at all yet. It's still very, very tight. It's still very early days, weirdly enough, even though we're nearly a quarter of the way through the season.
Yeah, I guess the sort of the flip side to obviously saying about I don't actually mind Cooper not being too high or too low, depending how we get on. I actually quite like it. I think it's better as for a playing environment. I don't think it helps if you have someone like look at Steve Evans, for example, or Nathan Jones, like that sort of level of management where you're constantly screaming at players. It works for so long, and then you fall off a cliff and they're sacked within months. Whereas I think it's better to be balanced and level-headed, regardless of what's going on. But no, it's yeah. I suppose if you look at it, obviously, in terms of what's been achieved, I mean, he's Europa League winning manager, I suppose. But I see what you're saying, as opposed to someone who's doing very well. But Lee, what do you think? Do you think there's any substance to it? Are you angling for any sort of change? Are you sort of willing to ride the wave, sort of thing?
Yeah, I'm certainly not angling for any sort of change. I think it's frustrating. Of course, it's frustrating. It's very reactionary into football. Let's face it. One good result and everything's rosy again. A couple of bad ones and you start questioning certain aspects of the team. But I wouldn't, in terms of how do we pronounce his name? It's going to be a nightmare if we get him.
I think it's a petty guy.
One stick I wouldn't use to beat him with is that he's not in a club. I think in this day and age, there's lots of reasons why managers don't have clubs. Does he stop getting a handsome backhander from Wolves when he gets a new job? Who knows? Steve Cooper didn't have a job when we appointed him. He's done okay. I just think there's a number of factors. One thing that I do agree with Reese on this is he a bit of a mard arse? Is he going to throw the toys out if Marinakis says he can't have a player? There was a lot of he wasn't happy that he couldn't strengthen his squad at Wolves, wasn't he? So, I mean, you look at our transfer spending. I don't think he's going to have that problem, is he, at Forest? So, yeah, I mean, like you said, Christian, you don't get the Real Madrid and the Spain national job if you've not got something about you, and he's won the Europa League. So, yeah, I don't want to talk about it too much because I don't really. I'm not in the Cooper out camp just yet. I think he's got to. Do you know, it's funny because I actually saw Steve Cooper do something that I don't think I've ever seen him do before, certainly at home. When Brighton got the penalty for the third and they scored it, he just went and sat down. And I've never seen him do that. Sometimes he goes and checks his little. They've got an analyst up with him on the bench, and he'll check the tablet or whatever. He just went and sat down, and it was like he was resigned to the fact that it was almost like I got the impression that he was thinking, I don't know what else to try. I don't know what else I can physically do. Again, that might be me reading far between the lines that I need to, but yeah, I don't know. In terms of the actual story, there's no smoke without fire, is there? I suppose people will always call it what they want, bullshit, clickbait, that sort of stuff. People usually call it that when it's something they don't want to believe is true. But we've said on this pod before that our owner is super ambitious, and 1 win in 9, 11 dropped points from winning positions after spending money on 13 new players. It's not unfair for Marinakis to expect a little bit better, and the fact we keep churning out the same performance levels and conceding the same sort of soft goals is not going to help him. It's the big boys league now, isn't it? And again, I don't want that to sound patronising, but it's a case of sink or swim for Cooper, I suppose now.
I think that's a few very valid points there, but the biggest one is I mean, I don't think any betting man really or otherwise will look at the next 2 games. They'll probably skip past Forest, Everton, and Fulham, Forest. They won't put them on their accumulators because I think it's not reasonable to suggest that we could win both
We
of
can win
those
the
games.
ball. Yeah.
Yeah, and if we win both of those games, then suddenly it's what we're complaining about. We're in the top half of the table. Cooper's get the statue ready. Like how stupid we to doubt him. And that's the nature of football. But as a wider picture, I completely get why these articles are coming out. I mean, as I don't want to say it, I don't like saying it. I love Steve Cooper and we owe him a great deal, but it's like you said, for the return that we've put in for the players that we've signed, it's not really acceptable. So we'll have to see how it goes. I mean, obviously, there's still a long way to go yet. And like you said, football's very reactionary. We're saying this very frustrated after another loss, a fourth 3-2 loss of the season, which in itself is bizarre. I mean, how many teams score 2 goals and lose games? It just shouldn't happen. But yeah, we'll have to see. I mean, I still have faith he can turn it around and do something with it, and we'll end the season fine.
I don't know. I don't know what your guys' opinion of this is as well, but I get the impression, looking at various bits and bobs, social media, this, that, and the other, I get the impression that people that go to games more often than not probably want Cooper to stay and they want it to work for him.
Yeah, I think
But
that's fair.
I just get the impression that in the background, the people with the dodgy sticks and this, that, and the other, it does seem to be the voice of discontent. I think from those, I don't know. I've not seen any. Previously when we've had this sort of run, I know it's been in a different league, but fans at the games have started turning, and you can feel the atmosphere going a bit toxic. But I've never experienced that with Cooper at the ground. So in my head, I guess I'm thinking, I think most of the game-going supporters, season ticket holders, that sort of stuff, are probably still firmly in Cooper's camp. I think.
I think you're probably right. I think mostly you are right. Yeah, I don't think even yesterday, the last 20 minutes, I think when the fans sort of sensed that we could get something out of it, it was just nothing but support for the team. There was no dissenting voices or anything like that. So yeah, I think by and large, you've probably hit the nail on the head there. I think it's the ones that maybe aren't going to games that are a bit more sort of getting more frustrated by it. But anyway, I just realised we have gone 51 minutes into the podcast now, so we've probably better move things along. Otherwise, we'll have our listeners listening for about 4 hours, and if they need that, I thought it was going to be a quicker one as well because we lost. So we're going to move on to Slept on It thoughts.
Red side of the Trent. Slept on it thoughts.
So I just realised we've just gone past the 4,000 follower mark on Twitter as well. So thank you very much for that, everyone. We'll start with Yummy Bear. No win in 6, ravished by injuries. Go 1-0 down after 3 minutes. 2 more players enforced off of injury before half time. Play with 10 men for 30 plus minutes. Fear not, Charity FC is here to hand you 3 points. Frustrating. It's now on the head stuff there because it is, as a phrase I'd say quite a lot, Charity FC in town again. Jim H says MGW outstanding and never gives up. Alanga Murillo excellent. Our undoing was allowing Brighton to play in the first half. We were far too passive. Shocking referee set the stage once again. Need points against Everton. Sam says, not slept on it. Anthony Taylor is an expletive ref, and Nizerbi can expletive run on across the pitch like he's won the Prem. Chris Walsh, there's 3 major issues we've had all season, and they've never been more obvious today. Our final ball is atrocious. Individual errors always cost us, and we can't seem to defend aerial balls. Pretty fair assessment that. Willis says Cooper was outmanaged today, not a better team on paper. Brighton played better and deserved it. Got to have a man up top when defending a corner. Osh Jones says lessons aren't being learned from last season, and I feel the only frustration. Not sure how long Cooper will survive if we keep gifting away easy goals and then go on to huff and puff for half an hour against 10 men that fail to create any real chances. Premier Elliott says Christian's point on Twitter is spot on. I'm guessing that's about the Zerbi. Yeah, no point getting rattled by the Zerbi. Oh, thank you, Elliott. Appreciate it. I only start to get concerned if Bournemouth overtake us. Gibbs White was class today and really hope we tighten up at the sloppy play. Great podcast as ever. Keep up the good work. Oh, thank you very much. Ian Russell said disappointing result, but for a decision or two from Taylor, we could have got a point. So surprised they got a penalty. It looked so offside from where I was onto Everton. Unfortunately, the lines were drawn. Dunk was pretty onside. Joe White still says we need to find a way to get Hudson-Odoi, Gibbs White, and Alanga in the starting 11. Grant says something isn't right. Why are we so negative, especially when we take the lead? Always retreat to the edge of our box and await the inevitable mistake to throw the lead and then stay there till we go behind before coming at teams to try and salvage it. Very frustrating. Stuart Clarkson started with a chef's kiss, ended with a fall flat on our faces. Despite the first assist, Gibbs White should have been in the middle. Danilo isn't a 10. He might have been better out wide even. Gibbs White tracks back. Danilo lost the ball and stood still. no desire to win. However, Murillo's passing is epic. Bish says there's no intensity in the team. The slow build-up is killing us. Watching Origi walking around and not making runs was one of the most frustrating things I saw yesterday. I do worry for this team. And Russ, one more last one because we got quite a lot. Normally, always get more in the feed, don't we, than a win? Like people just venting. Russ says it's too easy. Sorry, to blame the referee. Midfield constantly give the ball away and put the defence under pressure. It's very true. We have good players, but have an inability to keep the ball. The form at City Ground's been poor this season with too many drop points. Need to find some form pretty quickly. And yeah, as when the last one, of course, from our very own Reece Lane says, concerned about Taiwo, not the same team at all without him. The Zerbi should be shaking hands, but no issues celebrations. Take it as a compliment that a side in Europe means a lot for them to beat us at home. We need a win next Saturday, and even without one, please not Lopetegui. If that is a route that may be headed down, looking forward to Saturday already. Our goals also seem to be our own downfall and not being cut open by opposition. So, yes, thank you all for those. And we'll move on to some player performances very briefly. So, Adam, we'll start with you. Danilo.
Yeah, I didn't think he was great yesterday. Didn't really. I thought Danilo at the 10 would have been really good because he is high energy and he'll get in people's faces. I mean, last season when he nicked the ball off Moises Caicedo and then did a nice little 1-2 with Taiwo pretty much to score his first goal, you kind of think, yeah, great, we'll have him there and he'll press. I think Billy Gilmore and Pascal Gross and help Chris Wood, but he wasn't really in the game. I thought him and Dominguez were our weak link, and it really showed. And I think so many people realise what Ibrahim Sangare brings to our midfield now. Without him, I thought he was such a big miss in terms of breaking play up and protecting Mangala a little bit, because I thought Mangala just looked a little bit lost. Like Dominguez just didn't want to get on the half turn. Neither did Danilo. It was just so passive. I thought he had a really poor game. He needs to step it up to get back to where he was last season, and the player that is already a popular figure amongst the supporters, really.
No, I agree with that. I was very surprised by Danilo's performance. That's probably the worst I've seen him play. I think it was a flashback to when he first started and looked a bit very green as he was just getting adapted. Remember we played Leeds at home? We won, was it 1-0? Johnson scored, and Danilo was hooked at half time, and he was just very, very looked out of his depth. It was the same yesterday, and it's very surprising because if you look how well he played against West Ham, we were saying how good he was, how much life he injected into the team at West Ham, and then you get yesterday, it's very, very chalk and cheese. I suppose that's what happens with young players, but
normally you can get him the ball, and he's quite good at link up, and he's got obviously that Brazilian flair in him, hasn't he? Like they all have, they all come from a futsal background, but I just saw nothing of that. He just looks so uncomposed, if that's even a word.
Just rushing everything, wasn't it? Always passes just being he wasn't putting much thought behind them. It was just but I think the bigger point though, and I think you could see it within the first 20 minutes, was Sangare's miss was extremely notable. I've seen some people
just the
say
physicality in there.
That's an excuse. It's like, do you even watch football? Honestly, it's the interceptions that when we had Joe on, Adam, the Brighton fan, he was saying about Caicedo and how when you take him out of the team, you realise how much stuff he actually was intercepting, how many things he was stopping before it actually happened. Exactly the same with Sangare. Like the times he's in position to win the ball or to just step out and take the ball and then find feet or whatever else, just small little things that don't really look like much on the eye, but have a massive impact in whether your side concedes a goal or not. And
just his sheer physicality as well against
we missed the
pretty small midfield. So
we really missed him yesterday, and I hope I saw him pick up a virus. I was like, oh Christ, not another one. But thankfully it was just a virus and nothing else, and hopefully be fit for next week because goodness, against Everton, we're really going to need him. So Lee, your player is a substitute, but one who I thought had a very big impact in the game despite his limited minutes, Callum Hudson-Odoi.
Yeah, he does look to have that little bit of star quality, doesn't he? The challenge for us is going to be to getting him back to his best, which is obviously a long way off because he was really good when he first burst onto the scene at Chelsea. I've said it before on this podcast. What thing I really like about Callum Hudson-Odoi is as soon as he gets that ball, he's very direct. He looks to get into that penalty area as soon as he can because he knows that defenders can't touch him. Yeah, I agreed with the slept on it thought. Really, I think in an ideal world, we'd try and get a team where we've got Hudson-Odoi, Elanga, and Gibbs-White all in the same team. Doing that probably takes a man out of midfield, though, and we know what happens to teams who play two in midfield in the Premier League. I'm looking at Vincent Kompany. So yeah, yeah, he is a good player. I like him. I just hope he can stay fit. No player ever chooses to be injured more often than not, do they? But it is clearly a very, very good footballer in there. So yeah, hopefully he can stay fit. And looking at how he played during his cameo yesterday, I'd probably look to get him in that starting 11 if he's fit enough next Saturday.
Yeah, wouldn't disagree with that at all. Adam, I'm going to give you centre back. One was into another, but this one maybe a bit more positive than last. Murillo, and especially, I know we didn't mention it in the game preview, but the burst of speed he found in the 93rd minute or whatever it was to thwart João Pedro was just phenomenal. I thought like he just seemed like it was like everyone else in slow motion. He just like on fast forward. It was ridiculous. But talk me through his performance. So again, I thought very, very good, Murillo.
Yeah, he's unbelievable. I mean, he seemed to be the one that if he could unlock a door, it was going to be him with a raking pass. Sometimes there was a time where he should have probably played the ball out wide, but I think he was probably getting frustrated in terms of everyone else. But yeah, that tackle really summed his day up. I mean, João Pedro kind of like was on the floor for a fair few minutes. He probably just thought, where the heck has he come from? And like to time it from behind and get a touch on the ball and then get us back on the attack was sensational. I mean, we've got to enjoy him while we can because he's not going to be with us for very, very long at all. But the pound signs will be in Marinakis's eyes, I'd have thought. But what a coup he's been. We're very, very lucky to have someone so talented at our club, and we're so lucky that he even played yesterday. Though we still didn't get the right result that we'd have all liked. But yeah, what an incredible player, mature, brave. I don't think you can't. I can't run out of superlative. There's too many superlatives for him. He's just that good. Yeah, I love him. We just need a good song for him just before he leaves. To be honest, I think that'll make me happy. I might get him on the back of one of my shirts because he's just so good.
Yeah, it might be a very flash in the pan. There was an Athletic article on him last week. It was quite funny seeing the comments. They're all like, like take this down now. Sort of like, oh, that Murillo is terrible. Go watch that. I think he should stay at Forest for the next 15 years and no one should ever watch him ever again. Comments like that. Like we are very. I honestly wouldn't be surprised if we were fielding bids in January. He's been that good, and that's scary. And I mean, we might luck out in the 2-club rule for FIFA, so it might not be immediate, but we're definitely going to be fielding phone calls because he's just different class.
I'd be blocking every phone number in the Premier League and Europe. Fax machine's not working, internet's down. Just put all your phones in the City ground where there's no signal. That'll be fine.
It's like with De Gea, just unplug the fax machine by accident and like make sure it doesn't go through in time. But and last but not least, Lee Gibbs-White. Give you him because I know we sort of touched on it earlier on, but I felt there are very few players who could have left the pitch yesterday with like the belief that they played well, but I think Gibbs-White was one of them.
Yeah, he was our best player for me. I don't think we flashed a man of the match up in the ground yesterday, did we?
Not surprised.
Well, I think we usually do when we're losing, don't we?
That is true.
But yeah, I thought he was our best player. Again, he won't get credit for it because some of our fans just like to bash good players. But to have a performance like he did against West Ham and then have to stew on it for 2 weeks and then come back and play like that speaks volumes of what sort of player we've got for me. I think he's a young player with a very mature head on his shoulders. Again, some people won't use this as an excuse, but he's just welcomed his first child into the world. So yeah, I'm sure he's probably not had too much downtime away from the training ground in terms of the 2 weeks. But yeah, I thought it was testament to the sort of character that he is, as well as the sort of player he is, to come back and play like that. Like I said earlier, we've got to get him through the centre a bit more. I just think when he's on the right, he's too isolated when the ball's on the other side. Whereas if he's through the middle, as we saw yesterday, he's fit enough to kind of always be showing for the ball, no matter who's got it. So yeah, I'd like to see him back in the 10 sooner rather than later. To be fair, especially with the form as it is at present. So yeah, it was a good performance, and let's face it, we all know he's capable of those performances, don't we? And I just think it might be a big psychological factor for him to kind of tick off that first goal and get another assist, both in the same game. Um, Now, in theory, we've got 3 games coming up where we might have a little bit more of the ball, so hopefully we can see a few more goals and assists from him as well.
Definitely. Yeah, we completely agree. And obviously, the first one of those games is next Saturday at 5:30 against Everton. Who've obviously just been done 10 points for reaching regulations. We do have a preview episode with Paddock Blue podcast, I believe, next week, so keep an eye out for that. But yes, Adam, we'll start with you. What's your thoughts for the game and a prediction?
It's going to be a tough game. Everton have been so much better away from Goodison than they have been at home, and they're now in siege mentality mode for the 10 points they've had deducted. I think they'll be completely safe. I think they've been far better than they were last season. Dyche has got them organised, got them fit. Their midfield is terrifying for me, and obviously Calvert-Lewin being actually fit this season is obviously a big plus. But that midfield of Anana, Decore, and James Garner. I mean, oh God, what an emotional return. I'm not going to the game. I couldn't get a ticket, unfortunately, but hopefully we give him a decent reception, because what a player. I'd still have him now. I think I could see a change of formation come in, whether that means Gibbs White operates as a false number 9, or we actually go 4-2-3-1, and if Sangare and Mangala are fit, and Gibbs White kind of holds back a little bit and almost plays how Dominguez has been doing recently, to give us that solidity in midfield, but also give Gibbs White a license to bomb forward and support whoever's playing up front. It's going to be a really tough game. I'd honestly wouldn't be surprised if we lost or drew to Everton, and I wouldn't be surprised if we beat them either, because they can be suspect in defending. So I really don't know where to kind of put my hat on this. I'm going to go for a Desmond like last season. I think it'll be 2-2.
Nice. It'll be a point on the board at least. Lee, what about you?
Yeah, tough game. Good side. Agree with Adam. I think they'll be comfortably safe. It wouldn't surprise me if they were out of the bottom 3 by Christmas, to be fair. Being brutally honest, it wouldn't surprise me if they were above us by Christmas. I've just had a little look at their fixtures, actually. They have got quite a tough run. They've got us and Burnley in the next 6 that they look at. The others are like Newcastle, Chelsea, United today, and Arsenal, I think. So, yeah, I don't know. It's all going to depend on when Forest turns up, isn't it? I don't know. My head says it's probably going to be a draw. They have been better away than they have been at Goodison. So, yeah, my head says a draw. My heart says we'll nick it, but I can't see us keeping a clean sheet. I don't want to be the same as Adam. I'll go for 3-2 to Forest.
It'd be quite nice.
Positive.
It'd be quite nice to be on the winning end of a 3-2 for once this season.
Yeah, I do think there'll be goals. I definitely think there'll be goals. I think both sides will open. Well, they'll play a style that, you know, what Everton are going to do under Dyche. It's usually the 3 big guys in midfield, isn't it? So, yeah, I think there'll be goals. Let's just hope we can score more than them this time.
I think that you're not wrong. It's going to be. It's the sort of team that I think Cooper could have done. They're obviously wrong. There are teams in this league where, you know, we can, I think, maybe more compatible with playing against. And like, if you need a result, I almost think it'd be better for Cooper if it was the other way around. We had Fulham first, then Everton. Just I think Fulham, not saying they would be easier to play against, but I think we're more likely to be a better team against Fulham personally than Everton, because Everton are horrible. Like, I don't mean that in like a like negative way. They're just horrible to play against. They're in your face. They're physical. They're strong. They're all the sorts of like ingredients that we've typically struggled against. And when we need a result, like we do, or like Cooper does, it's not the easiest game to handle at all. I don't see us keeping a clean sheet. Given how good Everton are from set pieces and Dyche teams are, and how bad we are, like I wouldn't be surprised if every goal they score was from a set piece, personally. But maybe like the West Ham game again. So, but you're right. It depends on what Forest turn up. It depends if Sangare's back fit again. I wouldn't go as far as saying it's a must-win game for Forest, but I do think it's potentially a must-win game for Cooper, which is a little scary. So I'm going to be bold, and I think I'm actually going to agree with you. I'm going to say 3-2 Forest. I think there's going to be a lot of goals in it. And yeah, we'll concede both goals from corners or free kicks, probably from Garner's foot as well. He'll get the assist for it, and but hopefully we've got enough to rally round and score, because otherwise it could be a bit of a bleak one. But we'll certainly see in any case. Obviously, very frustrating result yesterday. We surely due a win, aren't we? I think it's like you sort of said, like this time last season we were losing games, but we were getting battered. Whereas now we're losing games by the odd goal, and it's just galling. So at least there's obviously evident improvement there. But yeah.
I think the Everton game is must not lose for Cooper, because I don't think we'd make the change with Fulham so close. Because obviously that's midweek.
Yeah, that's probably fair.
So I think it's must not lose for Cooper. I think if we were to lose and lose quite badly, like you say, I think it could be a pretty bleak week for more reasons than just the result.
Yeah, let's hope it doesn't come to that. And let's hope the Forest actually get a win. And we're all talking about here saying, oh, it's quite nice in 10th, isn't it? That'd be a good dream, that. But anyway, until then, obviously look out for our preview show in midweek, and come on, you Reds.
This podcast is proud to be part of the TalkSport Fan Network. TalkSport. Powered by fans.